In this episode, we have Jenny Campos. Jenny is a coach and counselor and has a strong quality background, being the former quality manager at Philips, based in the Netherlands. Jenny, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Juanma. Thank you for having me. It's really nice to be here.
Yeah, it's really nice to have you because you have a very extensive experience in quality management, and I think you're the first person that I bring to the podcast with this technical knowledge. And something I didn't mention, of course, is that you are from Venezuela. You are not from the Netherlands, so that is your international move.
Yeah.
And before we go into details, because there are a lot of specific questions about quality that I want to ask you, can you briefly explain what are you currently doing and a bit about your background?
So yeah, I'm Jenny. As you said, I'm originally from Venezuela, and I have now close to 12 years living in the Netherlands. And today I am a coach and counselor, and I focus on empowering internationals in the Netherlands to build their careers successfully, right? And I do so by focusing on some key strengths that I will show or talk to you a little bit about how I did that in my own career. So through self-awareness, through clarity, through confidence, and through that growth mindset. And as I said, right, I bring that from my own experience of being a quality manager. And so I worked in corporate roles in the Netherlands for 10 years before having my own company as a coach and counselor. And I started originally in Venezuela in a chemicals manufacturing plant site as a process engineer because my
Okay.
background is I'm a chemical engineer and I have a specialization in safety engineering. Now, those are like the strong technical background that I have used throughout my career, both in Venezuela and in the Netherlands. And then, of course, now transferring to career coaching and counseling, I also have two bachelor level degrees on that subject.
All right. Thanks for the introduction. The transition from a very technical field like it is quality, which is, I believe, one of the most technical fields in a company, to now being coaching counselor for people is super interesting. We will go into
Yes.
detail at the end of the episode so you can
Hmm.
explain a bit more about
Yeah.
that. Now I'm interested to understand a bit more into the quality word because when we say quality, a lot of things come to mind. But getting specific, for example, what are the main areas inside
Yeah,
quality?
yeah, indeed, and quality in terms also we have to emphasize here that it's in terms of a manufacturing environment. So I've always worked in manufacturing, plastics, chemicals, also oil and gas services, and then also medtech, as you might mentioned, right, that I worked at Philips, that it's completely different. So one of the things about quality and quality assurance or quality management systems, it's that it's diverse, and you have that in almost any industry because it's about setting processes in order so that you have let's say consistent outcomes and good quality of the products. And then within that, right, you can start being a quality engineer and work within the process of improving a process, or also within quality control, that it's more in a lab and testing products and developing testing methods so that you can assure the consistency of the quality of your product. And then that's like the basis, right? You go like a quality control lab analyst, or maybe a quality control inspector in a plant, or a quality engineer. Then comes a little bit the part of the managerial or more the management of the systems. And then you can become a quality manager. And it's more about the design of the processes and less about just the execution. So it's a little bit of a higher level. And then also you have the quality management systems itself, which is something that it's standardized globally. So many of us know the ISO standards, so the international standards, and they are very specific. There are some general and there are some specific for each industry. And that's at the core of quality, right? And then if you go and want to specialize or become more expert, then there's a part that you can do supplier quality, which is something that I specialized at the end more into supplier quality. Or you can do continuous improvement, and then things like Six Sigma, Lean come in, and you can specialize in that part. Or maybe you focus on compliance with quality assurance, that then it's for these regulated environments, like health tech, right? A big thing where it also overlaps or is in a complement with regulatory affairs. So you have the general overview of quality assurance, and then within that you can start seeing it as centers of excellence. So it's really a varied landscape that you can go when you talk to quality assurance or quality management.
I see. So, putting it very simple, we can say that quality can be divided in two very big areas, which is one making the rules and the other one making sure that the rules are followed. We can say some way, right?
You can say that way,
In
yeah.
a very simple way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your area was more making the rules or making sure that the rules were followed?
So I progressed in my career, right? I was in the part of first executing the rules, so in the lab or in as I started in quality, more the quality engineer, just making sure that the lab was had the methodologies that they needed, and also like the people at the operations, they had the rules that they needed. So that's one level, that's the execution level. I also had in part then, or progressed then in part of designing what are the rules, right? And maybe a little bit of designing the rules is like designing specific rules for the company, because the rules then are already standardized globally, as I said, by the ISO standard. So yes, I did write procedures, I did write the methodologies, I proposed ways of working to optimize processes within the companies. And then, yes, you grow into that level where I then become the person that makes sure or that evaluates if the rules are followed. And that is one of the areas that I also specialized in my career as a lead auditor, right? That not only the processes were there, but then there were other people that were executing, and it's my job to check the compliance to those rules.
Okay. It sounds like a very technical word, which it is, of course. So I wonder, how can someone with no experience in quality get into quality? How can someone sneak into that world? Because no one is born knowing the rules, right? Let's say.
No. Yeah, and that's a part that it is very important to have the proper qualifications and the proper training. So you perhaps, if you start with zero, gaining experience can be like, if you are already in a site, if you're already part of a team, you may want to ask for a project or work a little gig inside your company to get the knowledge from or get acquainted with that quality environment, or with those quality tasks. So one is on the job, right? Just go and get exposed to that. However, it's very important to get trained and to get qualified. So there are specific certifications, like if you want to do auditing, then you need to do that. qualification as an auditor, as a lead auditor, and then you start to get into the field. And even you can do that. So because one of the things that we did in all of the different companies is that the quality auditors are not necessarily just the people in the quality assurance team. Right? They are also people that are in other areas of the company, and they can become auditors, and then they already get experience in that. But to get started, it's important to get qualified and certified and get the trainings necessary to start in this route.
And which trainings, which qualifications would you
Yeah.
recommend?
So there is quality management basics training. So there is this association called the American Association for Quality, ASQ, and they have a really nice curriculum on what are like the basic things that you can start to learn about quality and the differences about quality assurance, quality control, and then what is the level of quality engineer, the quality manager, and then there you build up that curriculum. And that's like the basis, right? Just understanding the field. Then if you want to become an auditor, there are specific trainings or certifications to get qualified in a specific standard, basic standard, ISO 9001. It's the one that it's
Uh-huh.
standard for all of the companies. But then maybe automotive, they have one specific standard. You go to that one. And
Yeah.
for medical devices, then there's another one.
Exactly. I wanted to ask you about that. So the standard will be different depending on the
Yeah.
industry. So that's important to
Yes.
understand which industry you want to specialize, which industry you want to maybe not make your full career until
Yeah.
the end, but in which area do you want to put the focus? Because depending on that, you will need one certification or a completely different one, right? From another institution, depending on the industry.
Maybe I can share a little bit from my experience because sometimes you don't know that right away, and then you don't want to invest in a certification and then not be able to enter in an industry. I think that the start is just to have the basic knowledge, the base standard. And what happened with me is that after I was in one specific industry, right, I said, I have this base knowledge and I can easily manage the other, because that's the beauty of having international standards, that it's basically the same with a few twists of a specific industry. And the companies I worked with were gave me that training, right? It's not
Okay.
something that I have to invest and not something that I decided beforehand. But when I was in the plastics manufacturing industry and we did sell parts to the automotive industry, then they paid and I became the a lead auditor in 16489, for example, that it's for the automotive. And when I was in Philips, they gave me there the opportunities to certify in the 13485 that it's for medical devices. And it's something to have into consideration, but also not say, okay, I cannot move until I have it. That's a little bit of part of the negotiation and your growth as well within the career.
That's a really good one. Being involved in the area already, so showing your interest, showing that you're working on it already, and once you know that you truly like it, once you know that you're good at it and you want to develop your career, then ask your company for the certification. Say, okay, this is the limiting factor. I want to fully dedicate myself, but I need the certification. And then your company will be normally happy to pay for that certification because you're already adding value. It's not like, okay, I need the certification to move away or to start, as you say. The best
Yeah.
one is to start already and then certificate later.
Yeah. And I
And
think, mhm.
before we go into more details about the certification, before that, would you say engineering is mandatory to be in quality?
Okay. That's quite a good question. Um, Maybe not engineering, but there has to be a technical background, right? what happens is that, or at least, for example, in Venezuela, the part of chemical engineering or the part of industrial engineering was the logical background for you to go into quality assurance. So in Venezuela, for us, it was very normal that the quality managers and the quality engineers were indeed engineers, which is something completely different when I started working here in the Netherlands. And in fact, not everyone is an engineer, and not everyone had that specific engineering background to be called a quality engineer or a supplier quality engineer. The important thing is that they were already in the industry, already managing certain processes or managing certain areas, and upskilled while they were within the company. So
Right.
it really depends on, of course, also the industry and like the company, what is the background that they say. But I would say it's not a limiting factor when you're able to sell yourself confidently and you want to do that and you're able to use the transferable skills.
I see. But mainly, yeah, engineering would be the natural way to follow if you want to develop a career in quality. Not the mandatory, I mean, not absolutely mandatory, but the natural way, let's say.
And maybe just to kind of go behind that, the why is because engineering, more than the what you learn there, is the process thinking about
Yeah.
it, is the way that you approach problem solving, is the way that you approach structure, and then that's what basically quality management is.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, yeah. Indeed, fully agree. Okay, we've talked a bit in deep about the quality area and how can someone develop a career inside there. Now I'm interested in your move, because from Venezuela to the Netherlands, I think they are completely different worlds, right? Like completely different. So my first question is, why did you choose Netherlands?
Yeah. So I had already been working in Venezuela for 5 years. I had a pretty good career. I had already been promoted, so I was supervising teams, and still, my husband and I always talked about this career progression, this experimenting outside for something. Right? We always saw ourselves of a career growth outside of Venezuela. Maybe the situation in Venezuela at the moment that we decided was also like pushing us towards that, but
Yeah.
it was not the main reason. The main reason it was that my husband, also Venezuelan, also chemical engineer, we both had done our master's studies there. We both had our 5 years careers there. We said, okay, we're ready for the next move. And then we decided to move.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why Netherlands? I mean,
Yeah.
the world is so big. Why
The world
Netherlands?
is so big indeed. And the defining factor of why Venezuela might have been where my husband found his PhD. And now, why did we decide that his was the priority? I said, I don't want to study anymore. I just want to go and find a job. Right. And then that I could do basically anywhere, because I felt that quality assurance was so open, so diverse that, a lot of companies in any country, I could handle that. Now, for a PhD, it's more narrow because he has his area of expertise. And we had always said we wanted Europe, or more like, we don't want USA and we don't want Latin America. And then the rest of the world was available. And here, for the specialization that my husband was, or the focus of my husband, that was catalysis, then here there are the two technical universities, TU Delft and TU Eindhoven. He applied and got for the TU Eindhoven, and then that was
Okay.
the decision. Yeah, and that's the shortest version that I can give you, because there's a lot of, it's never straightforward, right? It's not
Yeah.
like, yeah, I want to go to the Netherlands, and then you apply and then you say, yeah. But that's the reason why we ended up here.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. The next question, of course, is visas and work permit, because I understand this is a big topic for people outside of Europe, how to get inside Europe, how to get a visa sponsorship, the work permit. So how was the process for you?
And I think that that also played a role on why we chose that my husband first got the PhD, because for a PhD, you're an employee of the university, and that comes with what the Netherlands called a highly skilled migrant visa. Right, so he gets a sponsorship for doing his research here, and as an spouse, I get an extension of that visa.
Wow.
And then we are both highly skilled migrants, which is needed for non-Europeans, right? So this and it comes. It's not so easily given. It's not like, okay, you ask and then
Yeah.
you give, because there's two parts that are important for it. First, it is there is a salary range that companies need to make sure that they pay you for doing that job. So they will need to pay you more than they would pay a local person or maybe someone from Europe. And then that needs to make logic for them, the investment that they are doing, depending on the work that you're doing. And the second part is that they have to justify why your position cannot be covered by someone that is in the Netherlands, from the Netherlands, and from the European Union. And
Yeah.
then this makes it, for my husband, okay, it's a PhD, it's logical, they are doing some new research, and the set of skills is kind of straightforward to justify there. Now for me, that's a bit of a challenge, right? So a quality engineer, how do companies justify that quality engineering cannot be done by anyone else? And there's when that clarity and superpower and super confidence comes in, because the key in the Netherlands is that you have to position yourself as the expert in an area. So it's easy for them to justify to the government why they are hiring you and not a local. And also it's easier for them just to hire because you're going to solve a problem that they actually have, right? And it's super important then for you to know what is your expertise, and that we didn't touch it yet, but that was like the key for me finding the job. And even though that I got already, I mean, I got an advantage, right? Because I didn't have to ask for a visa.
Yeah.
I already had it, but still I had to, my salary range was already going to be higher. Then I had to justify
Yeah.
why am I an expert in any specific area.
The way you explained it was so clear that I can see where this coaching and counselor area is coming from now. Thank
That
you for
makes sense.
explaining it. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. You
yeah.
explained it very, very clear. I highlight every part of this. It is an extra challenge that you have as holding a non-European passport, indeed. So I think it was clear for the audience. You explained it very, very clear. The next question, the natural question is, how did you find your job? You positioned yourself as the expert and
Yes.
you
Hmm.
also needed a higher salary. So what did you do to find it?
Yeah, yeah. And then I go back to my experience in Venezuela. When I arrived here, just process engineering, which was my title in Venezuela, or process superintendent, that just meant I was leading the group of process engineers. It didn't relate. It's not one to one. So I had to take time to take my position in Venezuela. And also I wasn't doing just one thing. I was doing a bunch of things, right? So I took my position in Venezuela and I split it in the task and specific responsibilities that I had. And I did have a part of process engineering that is really going to the plant and understanding the process and understanding the bottlenecks and understanding how things work and how to troubleshoot in case something happens, right? That's process engineering. Then I had my experience as quality engineering that is really then suggesting the adjustments if something in the product was not doing well, going to the lab, analyzing, and then there's quality assurance, that it's the process management, the process improvement, the compliance. Then I had safety engineering as well, right? That is more with the local regulations, what you needed to report as an accident, what to another part. And then I had like this mini portfolio of things, and I saw that I needed to apply for them separately and tailor for each job separately.
Yeah.
And when I went to an interview, I had to talk about it separately. So I became an expert in each of these areas. And it's not, I never felt like I was cheating the system, or like I wasn't an expert in all of that, but it was just a focus. I think for me, this is what's going to work. And then that's how I got the opportunities. With this process that I split, and I was able to say, okay, this is my area, these were the skills here, this is what worked, the drivers here. I also started to see where I wasn't going to be successful in the Netherlands. And let's start, for example, safety engineering. I was very good, and I could be called an expert in Venezuela because I knew the regulations, I knew the laws, I knew the entities, and I spoke the language.
Yeah.
Here in the Netherlands,
It's different.
the same, right? You need to know the law, you need to know the language, you need to know the entities. Very clearly, I see, okay, that's not possible.
Yeah.
In process engineering and quality engineering, I also saw, okay, I need to talk, one of the key things is that you have to be on the floor. You have to talk with technicians. You have to talk to operators. You have to convince them. You
Yeah.
have to ask them.
You need
right?
to speak the
And
language.
You need to speak the language. While many of the manufacturing companies are internationals, the workforce at the work plant, right, at the plant level, they will be local. So that also was a part that I said, oh, okay, so maybe here is not the way. So I focus on quality management, on quality assurance, and on corporate roles. And then I saw there, okay, because it's corporate, I have to have a broader reach or range, right? So it is logical that they are going to pay more for that, right? So I wasn't only in charge of, say, the Netherlands, but Europe. So I started in the Netherlands, but like 3 or 4 plants or sites, and then Europe, you have more sites, and then global that I had with Philips, then it's everything, right? So I think that was my strategy. I cut up my my experience, and then I dedicated to be the expert. And then I said, I figure out, right, what is going to work, what is not going to work. And then I put my energy on what did work.
Yep. I love it, Jenny. I love it. I love how you've explained it, because it's so clear again. And I would say this is the most common mistake that I see when I talk with people who are looking for a job, specifically abroad, because I will also try to make it step by step. When you go abroad, I mean, people don't hire professionals outside of their country if they can find it locally. It makes sense, right? If you can hire someone from the country that you don't need to do any immigration paperwork, whatever, already speaks the language, etc., it's better for you. So when do you hire internationally? When you cannot find that talent inside your country. And that talent is normally experts, is very specific.
Exactly.
I cannot find this specific problem that I want to solve. So I need to find it internationally. I need to open the scope. And then how can you present yourself as the solution to that problem? Because it also needs to be specific. And one example that I always present when I talk with people to make this mental exercise so they can understand, it's if you're in your house and a pipe breaks, who do you call? A construction company or a plumber? The construction company can do everything, right? For sure they will fix the pipe, but you don't Google construction company. You Google plumber and you call the plumber. The way you present yourself as that specialist is how you did it. You had your construction company, let's say, with the analogy, in quality. But you didn't say, I'm a construction company in quality. You said, okay, actually, these are all the areas where I can solve problems. And then you focus on the area, customizing your CV and only looking for that specific role where you can be the one solving the problem that they have. And this is something that everyone, I mean, not everyone, but a lot of people make the mistake when looking for a job. It's like, I can do everything. No, sorry.
Exactly. And maybe to that point, and maybe jumping a little bit ahead of the part of coaching and counseling, but one of the things that, because I had this experience and I did this approach, for me, it's still like I get a little bit puzzled when I ask someone that comes in for a conversation or something, and I ask them, so what are you looking for? What do you want to do? And if their response is, well, anything where my
Anything.
skills can be used, I worry. I said, wow, there's a lot of work to be done here, and it's not a work about a CV simply or your LinkedIn. It's a process of clarifying
Yeah.
really what are you an expert at, and I have exercises to kind of put that expertise in one sentence as well.
Absolutely, yeah. It's like we don't hire anything.
Yeah, exactly.
We hire
Exactly.
specific. Yeah,
Yeah, and I think
good
that
one.
it's maybe a little bit of that background culture, because it is something that is expected in Venezuela, at least, right? That you were hired to do something and that you were able to take on anything else, or you were willing to at least chip in something else, and then that became your new role, etc. So it's also that it's important to have that self-awareness that things are different here, and you have to adapt certain things. It doesn't mean that you no longer can do all of those things or that you lose your identity, but you're adjusting so that you can make it work here.
Yep, yep. I think that was a really great tip for people who are listening and they're still not clear on how to sell their profile. Thank you for sharing that. Then we briefly mentioned about the salary being higher than the locals for you to be hired. So, what is a salary range that someone can expect when going into quality in the Netherlands?
Then, so apart from the thing that if you're a highly skilled migrant, if you need a visa, the salary range for jobs in quality assurance will depend also on two different things: on the years of experience that you have and on the industry that you work. So I'm going to tell you a range that is crazy, because it's from 55,000 euros a year to 125, let's say, right? And the range is so wide because it depends on that. First, on the levels of experience that you have. It's the very senior level that can go beyond the 100K a year. Right. So if you're starting, yes, your salary is more or less between 55K a year, maybe 60K a year,
Okay,
or
so 5 years
65.
experience, we can say from 50 to 60.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe you can push it if it's closer. Yeah. You can say that.
Okay.
But then again, it is higher. For example, in medtech, right? Medical devices or medical technology is higher. Why? Because it's a regulated environment, and it may come with you needing some qualification. So it's very expert level that you need there. Manufacturing and plastics, chemicals, things like that, maybe the salary is in a shorter range still within
Okay.
that big, but shorter. And then oil and gas services, where I had the thing is that the oil and gas industry is a rich industry as well. So there you can expect some high salaries. And also you can imagine that there are very high positions for quality. In many companies now you can find a chief of quality, right? And then from the chief of quality, you have VP of quality, you have directors, then you have the managers, and then you have the experts. So there is a big range of that as well. I did prepare a little table that I said that I might share with you and your audience. Maybe we prepare a little link. And the other thing that, in my experience, how did I do salary negotiations and how did I do it later, or what I discovered even later, is that in the Netherlands, transparency is a big thing. So there are things that are not hired, that are not hidden, right? So maybe it's already in their in the job position that that's your salary, and you just maybe want to compare depending on the years that you have of experience. And here you can negotiate, right? So
Okay.
maybe it's there. And the other thing is that the big companies, such as Philips and some other, maybe Lyondell, the one that I also worked, and some of the other bigger ones, they have the collective agreements. And the quality, some of the quality positions or the quality management positions are on those general collective agreements for the employees. And there is a need that to have that the salary information public. So if you
Okay.
go here in the Netherlands to the websites of the work unions, and maybe sometimes even to the websites of the companies, you will find their salary tables, and it's just to give you an idea of what to expect depending on the grade that you're in, that they put grade also basically on terms of job experience as well.
All right, that's a good one. I didn't know
Hmm.
they were publishing these
Yeah.
salary ranges. This is super helpful for preparing an interview, for preparing a negotiation. And one thing
Hmm.
I want to start asking as well, because in the beginning of the episodes, I only asked about salary range, and then people started coming back to me saying, okay, I understand what is the salary range, but how that translates into quality of life in that country, because some cities are super expensive and in some others maybe prices are a bit lower. So the salary that you receive can be a lot or can be not so much depending on the cost of life. What about the cost of life in the Netherlands? What would you say is a good salary to be comfortable?
Oh, wow. That also is a very personal question because it depends what is comfortable for you, right?
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I think that I cannot answer maybe that, but what I say is maybe the salary of the quality assurance or the quality management job or market does give you a good salary for a living. It will always depend also on the size of your family and everything, but it's a good, it's a well paid position is what I mean. It's not like you're going to be begging for your life. No, it's really it has a good range, and it will depend always on what is your expectation of a lifestyle. What is it that you
Yeah, yeah.
need,
Let's
what you
rephrase it
want?
maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is something I will need to draft for next episodes, to
Mm-hmm.
ask about very specific prices. So, for example, a coffee and a pastry. What is the price for a coffee and a pastry?
So sorry, I think that I don't uh I don't think that I can say that on the top of my head, but do you mean like in a cafe or something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that? Maybe.
normal daily life expenses. So, a
Yeah, I can
coffee and a
get
pastry.
a super cheap coffee in the Alberheim, that it's the supermarket, and maybe that's already €2, €2.5, right? It's just a coffee from the machine. If you want to go and sit to have some coffee, then yeah, maybe €4, €5, depending as well. You want the cappuccino, the really nice ones. So, yeah,
Okay.
maybe for next time I can come prepared, and also it depends, right, on how you like things, or how much
Yeah, yeah,
you you
absolutely.
you
I
you
just want to
can.
establish an average for
Yeah.
every country. So, to establish a common measurement, a standard. Talking about quality, we can also measure quality of life So what is the price for an average breakfast or an average dinner? But I'll leave that
And
to other
I would
episodes.
say, and I would maybe just as an insight for you or something for you to consider is that it has to be one of the things that we do in statistics and in quality. You create a baseline, right? It's not the same thing that I say my coffee here costs 4 euros with how much I get or what the minimum salary is compared to, let's say, Spain or Italy, right? So it has to be a very standardized. It's not
Yeah,
one to one that I say here it costs this, yeah, but maybe what I my salary here is 1.5 times what it is the same
exactly.
position in Italy. So yeah, I think that you need to refine the
Yeah,
question and also like to so that it makes it logical to compare.
yeah, yeah. I will need to think about that because, for example, when I talk about this with people from Spain, I say, okay, here in Zurich, a coffee is 7.5 or even 8 euros. It's a lot, okay, but also what are the salaries? So this is the kind of comparison that I want to establish. How how much can you make out of your salary in the country that you're living in? But anyway, we'll leave that for for another episode. Um, an important topic that we
Yeah.
didn't discuss is language. You
Yeah.
arrived there, you didn't know Dutch,
Hmm.
you were able to get a job
Hmm.
without knowing Dutch, but today, currently in the job market, would you say Dutch is mandatory to get a job?
I wouldn't say mandatory, it's totally recommendable. It's really important that you have it, at least as an elementary level. The the tendency for recruiters and for companies is to enforce more the language here. Also because it's not just about doing the work in the language, but just the environment of the whole integration with the local teams and with the local
Yeah.
culture. So maybe if it's not even for a job in your area, and like I had, my last job was global, so I sometimes ended up speaking more Spanish in a day than I would English, or and I didn't even need Dutch, but you need that Dutch to do that team bonding, that networking, that integration, and of course to open more positions. There are more and more positions that are requiring Dutch, and it's not only for quality management, but all around, and it's because they are really wanting that there are so many applicants. I would say as well
Exactly.
that they are really trying
They
to
can raise the bar.
yeah,
When they have so
yeah,
many
raise,
applicants, it's
yeah.
something similar happens here in Switzerland. In Switzerland, a lot of people want to come here. So for a lot of job positions that only English is needed because you will work in English, they also ask for German. Why? Because they can allow themselves to ask for it. They have many applicants, so of course between two applicants that have a very similar CV, I take the one that knows the local language. It makes sense. And talking about that language and about that integration into the country, how was it for you? How was for you getting integrated, rebuilding social life?
So it has its ups and downs. So I'm not going to say that it's like a flat line. It's super nice. And it's also something that I integrate in my coaching. I say it's a roller coaster. One day you're super happy and up, and the other day you just want to pack your bags or you're crying for a call with your mom, right? So it it is always based on building that resilience. You need to know that you came here for a change. So you have to be self aware that it's not going to be without challenges. So I think because I already had that mindset, it was not as difficult for me as it might have been with someone else. The other thing that I think helped me in comparison with other maybe internationals is that I came with my husband, right? So and we had each other, and we knew that our families back home had each other because they lived close by, right? And we were able to be that co-regulation system for each other. And still, apart from all of that, right, the self-awareness that you have, that co-regulation that I had with my husband, the Dutch, I find that they are very open and very welcoming to internationals. They really want you to succeed. I think that maybe just a few, like in every other place, will want you to get out and, like, not be here. And with that, there are programs, systems, organizations here that are willing to help. And then before I even started, and this is something that I admire a lot from the Technical University of Eindhoven that my husband was at, is that they had a program for spouses. And before I arrived, the person in charge of that program was already telling me, hey, we meet up these days. These are the activities that we do.
Wow.
Let us know what you need. We can talk about this, and that. So I already came and I had a support system. And that's one thing that as internationals, we we need to we're not going to be able to do it alone, and it's
Yeah.
okay to ask for help. It's okay to reach for those support systems. There are international centers in almost every big city here. So we have one here in Utrecht, the Utrecht International Center. I'm a partner there, which means that I collaborate with them also to support the integration. I was received by the Holland Expat Center South in Eindhoven, and then you have one in Amsterdam. You have one in The Hague. So it's important for me. It was very important to have a sense that they got my back. I didn't have to do it
Absolutely.
alone,
Yeah, yeah.
and I took advantage for everything that they said. And it's like you can go to a course on mortgage and like how to buy a house or how to file your taxes, but
That's
also just a
amazing.
networking.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. And it's
Yeah.
so helpful for people who are coming. This is thinking one step ahead, because in the university, they could say, okay, we only cover integration for the PhD candidate, and we also cover visa sponsorship for the spouse, or whatever. But then we don't make any extra effort for the integration of the spouse. What's that? You're good at attracting talent, but not good at keeping it. Why? Because the spouse of that PhD candidate, if you don't feel that integration, maybe in 1 year, in 2 years, maybe, okay, I want to move out. So end of the PhD, end of the job, or whatever. Because I mean, everything is not our job, right? Everything is not professional. We also we also are people. We are also human.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
we want to feel integrated. We want to feel at home.
Yeah.
So being able to think ahead like that, and not only attracting talent but also keeping, like, for example, I see when a company offers low salaries for immigrants, okay, maybe you're able to attract that immigrant, but the moment that immigrant gets into the country, sees the local market, understands the local rates, okay, you're not keeping that talent. You're good at attracting, but not good at keeping. So in that regard, you can say that the Netherlands were good in integrating people and rebuilding social life, which is a key
Yeah.
factor for
Yeah,
moving to
and I
Netherlands.
think that they really incentivize that. They really acknowledge that it's a country that a lot of internationals come, and they want to keep them here. It's good for the economy. It's good
Yeah,
for the progress of, or for the diversity that they live by. So yeah,
they're very practical,
yeah,
the
yeah.
Dutch people. Okay. Um, Talking about deeper questions about when you move abroad. How has living abroad changed the person you are?
That I found that a very good question when I was preparing, and I think that there are three key things that I've become. I've become more curious about stuff, right? Because I see more different things, and if you react with a resistance to it, it will, again, the curve will be crazy. So I've become more curious whenever there's something different, whenever something challenges me, the way I'm just more open to it. I'm also more tolerant. I know that we're very diverse, right?
Yeah.
Because as an international, you start to go around in a community that is also of internationals, and then you see a very different perspectives of things. And I feel I've grown more tolerant, and also the last one is really open to differences. Before, maybe I was not aware of the differences, and therefore I wasn't welcoming enough. And
Yeah.
now I say, wow, a person that looks different from me, thinks differently from me, wow, there's an opportunity for growth for me there.
I like your take on this question. I think it's something that everyone agrees. Everyone who moves abroad and lives abroad for a certain time, they become more tolerant, as you said. They become aware that their world at home is not how everything works. That there is more than that, and you are only one piece of the puzzle, but you're not the center of the universe. So you also need to be able to
Yeah.
accept how other people think and behave. And in this regard, if you had a friend doubting about moving abroad, what would you say?
Yeah. So, and here comes my counseling part, right? I at first I wouldn't
Go for
say
it.
anything, and I would approach it with a question, right? And in my mind of counselor, I say doubt comes from a fear. And then I would ask, just, what are you afraid of? What do you think is the worst thing that can happen by moving abroad? And from that, you start asking more. They say something, and then you ask, okay, but how likely is that to happen? What is really likely to happen? If that happens, then what could you do? What are your options? What would you need at that moment? And then just start a conversation, because what I've seen, and this is in talking with friends and also with clients, is that then those big thoughts that are overwhelming, they go away. And then you ask, okay, so how do you feel about moving abroad? And then the possibilities open. And to conclude it, then after exploring that, I would say, every change is scary. There is nothing certain that will happen if you move. It makes us uncomfortable. It makes us feel a little bit unsafe, but still you can overcome it, right? It's just another challenge. You can understand it, you can see what you need and move forward with it.
I love your approach about making questions. It's so important. I think it's so important because when you try to force your point of view into a person, I mean, it can work. Sometimes it can work. You open that person's eyes and now he or she sees a different thing. But what works best is asking questions so that person reaches the conclusion by themselves. It's so good.
Exactly.
And I see
Yeah.
your coaching counselor area. I really see it. I saw it
Yeah.
throughout the interview. So now it's natural for me to ask about this transition. How
Yeah.
did you go from this very technical regulated field
Mhm.
into now helping others as coach and counselor?
Yeah. So, as I've said before, right? I started like very broad process engineering, then I went quality engineering, quality management specialist, supplier quality. I always went into some expertise, and still that wasn't it. When I was in every industry, I was trying out something else. I tried project management, so PNP, right? I tried data analysis, so business analysis, data science, and and I did that always out of curiosity. What else can I try? What else can I explore? And because I was working with teams, I saw this opportunity. Okay, what else can I do there? And also, maybe there's an important life-changing event that happened. That it was in my last company when I got a promotion from being a regional lead to being the business process expert globally. I burned out. And yeah, it was a very long recovery process. And when I came back from that, I said something needs to be different for me to stay in this system. I still liked what I do. I still wanted to work there, but I needed to find a balance. And then I became a mental health champion, which is the part of just asking questions, just being empathetic, just listening to people. And I really liked it. And then I said, okay, maybe no more PMP, maybe no more Lean Six Sigma, maybe no more data science. And I asked for coaching and counseling. And then again here, your pitch is everything. You have to say why me getting this certification was important for the role that I was doing. I was managing teams globally. I needed to influence them in doing things while I have no authority. And also I wanted to be more empathetic. I wanted to be more understanding. And without any hesitation, my manager signed off, and I got the certification. And then after another life-changing event is that happened, industry right now, it's tough out there, right? So I was in one of the waves of reorganization, or my job was affected, and it's what they call made redundant. So I no longer had a job. And because here in the Netherlands, the systems, or most of the systems, they will really take care of the employees. I had a program to outplace me, right? What do you want to do next? And it was between going and looking for another job in quality management, in supplier quality, if I wanted to, right? Or I wanted to try something else in that line. Or I had already opened this door of being a coach counselor. And then I decided, okay, then this is like my moment to decide and do this for myself.
Okay. I like that you were so open about it. Thank you for sharing your story. I think you've showed a lot of skills for coach and counseling. I think people, not only me, I think people in the interview will see how this natural path was taking place. And then I want to ask you the last question about this, about coaching and counseling. How do you help? Which areas of expertise are you, sorry, let me rephrase it. How are you helping people with your coaching counseling services? How can someone approach you? With which type of problems are you helping?
Yeah, maybe, and that's the expert kind of question that you need to ask. So why me, and what do I do, and how do I help people? And the key thing is internationals, that they want to go from this chaotic, overwhelming sense of where is my career going, to a really sense of direction. I understand what I want to do and I'm ready to do it, right? So it's that sense of, wow, what's happening? Where am I? What do I need to do? To, okay, I'm ready. And it's a very structured process, because I'm an engineer by heart, by brain, right? So there is a structured process, and there's a hard part of it, because what we work is on those 4 essential strengths: on you becoming more self-aware, on you gaining more clarity on who you are, what you want, and how that serves the company, on being confident in going after that, and always seeing that as a growth opportunity. You, with working with me, one of the things is that you never look just at your next step, at your next role. You connect it with the long role.
All right.
With the long run, right? Okay, I'm doing this now. How can then also that help you move further along? And I think that I am able to do this because I have that lived experience. I have that corporate also understanding of how things work here and how the Netherlands work. And also maybe another piece of like I like to sprinkle is that I also do my sessions in Spanish. And for Latin America and for Spanish-speaking people, I find that that is very comforting, because it's not the same that you want to express feelings, needs, thoughts in your second language, but when you do it in your mother tongue, much more
it changes,
is open, and a lot of things make more sense. Yeah.
Clear. Thank you for explaining. Before, well, of course, we will leave the link to your profile so people can reach out to you in case they want your services. And before we finish the interview, I always ask 3 quick final questions that also need 3 quick answers. The first one is your favorite local food from the Netherlands.
I would like to say that it's just like the fries and mayos. If it's like the comfort food, if I can go out, that's something that I say. And I'm not going to say anything else about the food here. So we leave
Okay,
it there.
that's valid. It's a valid answer. Then the second one is one book that you recommend.
Yeah, I love this question, and I have it here because I said, well, I'm from Venezuela and I want to bring something that it's from Venezuela. So it's Rómulo Gallegos. It's called Doña Bárbara, and it's one of my I've read it and reread it, and it's very Venezuela. If you go to it, you read it, it's Venezuela and Venezuelan women. So yeah, that's my recommendation.
All right. And the last one is the best advice you ever received.
Yeah, this one was from a Dutch manager that I had, and it was given in one of those moments where I was still in Venezuela mode and I needed to switch to the Dutch mode. And he said, it's okay that you aim for a 7 and not always a 10. Your 7 is most likely someone else's 10 already. And it came from this thing that I was always so pushing myself to get things so perfectly and to achieve more. And I had the same expectation to the others. And it was like this invitation that in this environment, it's okay not to be perfect and to aim to something that it's good, that even then you will be able to make it better.
All right. Interesting approach from a Dutch person. In my mind, maybe it's the stereotype, maybe it's the prejudice. In my mind, it could be a different one from Dutch people, like be more, like push it and try to be the best version. But in your case, it was the opposite. They saw you doing too much and maybe stressing too much, and they said, okay, actually maybe your 7 is our 10 in this environment.
Exactly. It was a little bit more about that indulgency of being okay at work and enjoying more than just being always super stressed.
Yeah, that's important. Enjoying what you do. Yeah. Okay, that was a great interview, Jenny. I think it was full of tips. People got to know you and also your services as coach and counselor. So I cannot say anything but thank you for joining the podcast. It was a
Thank you as
pleasure
well
to have you.
Sorry. Yes, thank you for having me, Juanma.
If you enjoyed this conversation, follow me and share it with that friend who wants to move abroad. And if you're listening on Spotify, YouTube, or Apple Podcasts, please like and rate the show with 5 stars. It helps me a lot more than you think. Thank you very much and see you on the next one.